That's Nick. That's Grandpa that you can't see his face. Great Grandpa.
Look at this print. That's 100 years old. Look how awesome that is.
With Grandma and Grandpa. So there's my parents with my two kids and their cousin Amy.
Bonjour, je suis téléphoné des États-Unis. Pardon, mon français est très mal. Avez-vous un moment pour une petite histoire?
This is a print that my mom and her sister found. They were showing me all of these old prints and I instantly grabbed this one for some reason. I just had to take it with me. This is a photo of Stephen Gurney, my great-great-uncle, who was born in 1890 in Lane County, Oregon. I've had this on my desk for 6 months and I would just stare at it because I would see facial features that I could see in my grandfather or my great-uncle. And it was one of those pictures that I just kept with me a lot. And then one day, and I don't know why I didn't do this sooner, on the front of the photo you can see the address and the name of the studio. So I decided to Google it, and I actually just Googled the address to see where this was, and it brought up the street view and the studio was still in business. I couldn't believe it. So this just got my mind turning about this studio in the south of France, 2 hours south of Bordeaux, out in the middle of nowhere, and what it must have been like for my great-great-uncle to be marching through the south of France during World War I. The fact that I could hold this print in my hand that was created 100 years ago and see parts of myself in the photo and see this wonderful photography and have a story of my great-great-uncle here in the print.
So the project just started with my street photography. I just love street photography. It gives me a great way to just unwind and try to tell a story about a place and the people that live there. And I ended up hearing a bunch of great stories. Of course, Lee Majors will make it in. Well, one of the things that can make a great shot is some really upset people. Like, these guys were not happy I was taking their photo, but it captures just the vagabonds in Portland. Got the ambulance in the background. There's just so much going on. This is Rob. I told him I was doing the gallery. He said he might make it, so I might see him tonight and make sure he's coming to the gallery. But this guy, it's a guy that he obviously has some drug problems, but he had a job and ended up quitting his job to take care of his grandparents because they weren't doing well. And his grandparents raised him because his mom was in and out of prison. And then his grandparents passed away, and once they passed away, all of the funeral costs and everything ate up all the money just like that, and then he was out on the street. So he's pretty much on the street all the time busking for money. And Alice. Alice breaks your heart. Alice has a four-year degree from a university, and I don't quite know all of her story. She didn't want to tell me everything, but I think she was married and her husband took care of everything, and then after the husband passed away, I think all she has is her Social Security, and so she makes up the difference in Social Security by begging on the streets. So a good example of someone who did everything they were supposed to do and still it didn't work out. So I guess the show is my chance to take all of these stories that I've collected and kind of pass them off out into the world, because just like back in the day and the caveman and, pre-written word stories are passed down by sharing them. And so hopefully as I share them, they'll catch on, and hopefully people will take some of these prints and take them with them, and then take those stories and move them, beyond me. It's amazing what we have here just in Portland. People ask me about where they would like to go do street photography, and I do a little bit in Tokyo, going back with my family, a little bit in London, but I could do street photography until I die in Portland and never run out of things to capture.
So when we remember something, when we see a picture or smell a smell or whatever that takes us back to that original memory, having something in front of you that you can physically touch means so much, because when we recall something, all the details that we paid attention to in the original memory kind of come flooding back. Having something that serves as that sort of memory link between now and the past, having something you can actually reach out and touch, has a much more powerful impact, because touching a photo now will remind you of the touch at the time, right? And it might trigger the sort of cascade of different senses that bring back that original memory in full force to bear for us. We do this much less when we see something that's on the screen. We process it much more superficially, much more automatically, much more quickly. We don't stop to linger, and we don't stop to think about what that means for us.
So for me, I just love hearing people's stories, right? So there's people that we pass by that just have, every day on the street, they just have these amazing stories that if we just take a moment to stop and listen, I think, we can learn some stuff. And, if we take those stories and put them in print, then they can move on. And even in, family photos, it's so important to print our family photos. We take more photos now than we've ever taken before, but if we're not careful, we're not gonna have anything to show for it. In 10 or 20 years, our kids have to have something to look back on. We're heading to the metro stop. I think the Chardonnay, I think we'll go to what's said. We're gonna head to the metro stop, hop on the metro for 5 stops, and then go meet up Scott Robert Lim at his apartment for his workshop. And we're gonna talk a little bit about storytelling and the importance of print to a lot of professionals that are attending his workshop. So that'll be cool.
Today we have a special guest all the way from Portland, Oregon. Mr. Fundy, the inventor of Fundy software, is here to share a little bit about why he's here and his journey here and what he's doing. And so anyways, go ahead, take it.
I discovered a print. My mother and father found a print of my great-great uncle that was taken in World War I in the south of France. And it's this old print, and it still has the studio name, right? It's pasted on a piece of cardboard, it has the studio name, studio address. So I pulled up Google Maps, and the studio is still in business in the south of France.
Wow.
Yeah, right?
Incredible.
So tomorrow we're driving down there, 7-hour drive, and I'm gonna have my portrait taken in the same place. So the reason we're doing this is to
re-communicate the importance of printing photos. Like, as professionals, if we're not delivering printed product to our clients, then in the future, people like me can't exist, right? I've discovered a story because I have a print that's 100 years old. And if we don't print our photos for our clients, their great-great-grandchildren are not going to be able to rediscover their stories. Let me do something. I have a little printer. Can you all stand up? I'm gonna give you guys a print. Okay, 1, 2, 3. There we go.
Oh, very cool. Oh, thank you. That's super cool.
Yeah, go ahead and
and it's
take
like a
it.
Polaroid?
Yep. So it'll start developing in a couple seconds on the white side.
So cute.
That's cool, huh?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
No, when she was born,
Yeah.
it was when film was still kind of just transferring. So I have like albums and albums of her first year, and I have nothing of his.
You guys have a good trip.
Thank you.
Yeah. So tomorrow's Bastille Day, so I thought we'd go check out the Arc de Triomphe, which is really cool. They have a giant French flag hanging from the middle of it, and it also has a tomb of the unknown soldier. So this is the tomb of the unknown French soldier from World War I. So we can see the dates 1914 to 1918. So my great-great-uncle's photo was taken in 1917. But I think it's significant that this is the World War I tomb, and that was the war that my great-great-uncle was in. So I thought this would be a great place to come visit. As a photographer who's out doing street photography, I think that there's this huge difference between taking a photo of someone because you're taking something of them and then giving them a print because you're giving them a gift. And you can just see people's eyes light up when they get a print and how excited they are. One of the problems with digital is that there's just so much of everything, and when you give something digitally, it's just like when you send a digital birthday card or whatever, it doesn't have any meaning, right? People don't put any value on it. And when you give someone an actual print of a photo versus just sending them the photo, you can instantly see the reaction. And there's just a lot of power in actually getting something physical versus just a digital representation of that item. People look at a printed photo versus a digital photo, they look at it much longer and much more deeply. You can actually see their eyes bounce all over the frame of the photo. Versus a digital, they'll just kind of look at the center and then move on. The print lights up very specific parts of your brain that don't light up as much when they're viewing the same digital version of the same thing. So it lights up the part of your brain that deals with memory, so you're imprinting that moment much deeper. So if you go on camping trips with your family and you take photos and then you print those photos, your kids will remember that camping trip much more deeply.
So I keep a bunch of photos in my office. I love to have these physical photos in front of me. This is me with my sister on my wedding day. This is one of many photos I keep in my office to serve as these emotional cues to my past. Having those photos around you can serve as this really tactile, really ever-present cue to you that transports you back to that time that meant so much to you.
Now we're on the highway, heading down to just south of Bordeaux. We have about 7 hours. Find this place.
You have reached your destination.
Entrez, venez.
Ah, merci.
Tu prends la baguette, tu prends le petit. Voilà.
Nous sommes, nous sommes venus de faire un film, documentaire. Nous avons fait des documentaires des photos de mon grand-oncle.
Oui.
Pourquoi c'est maintenant les hommes jeunes ne font les photos de printemps.
Des portraits.
Les photos, toutes les photos sont digitales.
Oui.
Ne fais pas les photos de papier, de print.
Oui.
Ouais.
Ah, d'accord.
Vous avez les photos
De mes parents.
des parents,
Des grands-parents. Oui,
des jeunes.
je vais montrer.
So this photo is from the studio we're going to tomorrow. So it's a well-known studio in town. And the family, look. So they had their family portrait taken at the same studio. How crazy is that?
La communion.
Look, check it out. So the telephone number was 3 digits. That's the telephone number. 3 digits. Studio Ernest, Montmersan, when he was 12.
Non, c'est nous ça.
Son papa et sa maman.
These are his parents at Studio Ernest. We hit the jackpot, buddy. Look at this. How crazy is this?
Ça c'est mon fils. Il a 42 ans maintenant. J'en ai plein de photos.
Ici.
Ah, c'est mieux.
Voilà.
C'est bien, ouais. Today's the day. So we have an appointment at 10 o'clock to go to Studio Ernest and have my portrait taken. The lovely couple that owns the house are going to go along with me. So that's going to be fun. I'm going to have my portrait taken. I was emailing with the woman who I believe is the manager of the studio, and she said that I can go ahead and get a print today, so I can take that back with me, and they'll also provide the digital file so I can make another print back home if we don't quite get the toning exactly like I like it today. But yeah, I'm excited. This is it. This is the whole reason we came. Yeah, there we're done. We did it. I wanted dark colors that were somewhat close to what my great-great uncle wore. I didn't want to try to replicate his uniform. I've never been in the military. I think that'd be kind of disrespectful if I did that. So I went with dark colors, black t-shirt. This is a really, really dark blue, so it'll show up slightly different colors in the photo. It's just from the waist up. So I wanted to look as similar as possible, but without trying to copy what he's doing. So hopefully I'll look good. C'est loin?
Là, à côté non.
I put in. Ah, yeah, you can see it up there. You can see the awning, the black one, right next to the Yves boutique.
À côté de boutique. On fait une autre, hein?
Bonjour, je m'appelle Andrew.
Photographe.
Ouais.
Et mon
merci bien.
associé.
Bonjour.
Bonjour. Super, super.
C'est magnifique, non?
Oui. Ah, c'est du studio
That's
Ernest.
Il y a 5 ans.
Très bien.
C'est très belle, ce portrait.
Ouais. Bon, j'ai le fond.
Ouais.
On va le voir. Vous allez venir avec moi.
Ouais.
Alors, on va voir ça. Alors, j'essaie de voir si on peut avoir les mêmes tons.
Ouais.
Vous avez quoi comme tenue?
Oui.
Ça, hein?
Ça.
Bon, on va faire avec, hein?
Ouais.
Allez, venez.
Ouais.
Cette tache
Ouais.
plus claire, hein, on l'a ici.
Ici. Ouais.
D'accord? Et c'est ça. Alors, il s'est abîmé,
Ouais.
c'est craquelé.
Hmm.
Voilà. Alors, Voilà, c'est ça que je vais essayer d'avoir. Parce que ça, est difficile, c'était gris.
Oui.
Et ça, c'est plutôt sépia, donc ce que je veux. On va le voir sur l'appareil, ce que ça donne.
Ouais, c'est pas de problème.
D'abord, on va cadrer en fonction.
Ouais.
Je vais le remonter.
Yeah, he's really like, he put some thought into this.
Je le refais juste pour voir. C'est déjà pas si mal. Ça, il faudrait l'éclairer plus. Moi, c'était une lumière douce plus par là. Ok. Ça, c'est bon. Le fond, c'est bon. Le fond, c'est bon comme ça. Cette lumière est plus douce que les autres. Hein? Je mets ça pour éclairer la veste un peu parce qu'elle était trop sombre. Et là, c'est plus doux. D'accord? J'ai mis moins de contraste et plus de douceur dans la photo. Ça, on retrouve à peu près l'ambiance. Toujours pas. Déboutonner la veste, déboutonner. Sans être pardon. Hein. On va. Bougez pas. La rigueur allemande. Hein? Très bien. Restez comme ça. Regardez-moi. Ouais. Je sais pas. Bon, déjà, c'est pas mal. Même chose. Même chose. 2, 3, regardez-moi. Parfait. Bien, d'accord? Léger, comme là, tout doux. La lumière vient d'en haut aussi. Là, c'est plus éclairé ici que là. Là, on a à peu près la même chose, d'accord? Bon, après, c'est sûr qu'elle est très sombre, mais à nous à équilibrer un peu.
Nous faisons les documentaires d'importance des papiers.
Tout à fait, tout à fait. Parce que maintenant, il n'y a plus de tirage papier. Et certains disent qu'il n'y aura plus d'histoire à raconter plus tard.
Yeah, exactly. He said exactly the same thing of talking about print. Without the print, there's no history into the future.
Il n'y aura plus de mémoire.
Yeah, there's no memories. Les photos de papier est important.
Très, très important.
Yeah. So he's saying it's really important to print the photos. Pourquoi?
Pour le plaisir d'abord. Le plaisir des yeux et du temps passé. Maintenant, avec le numérique, on va présenter sur écran toutes les photos, même les mauvaises, et ça dure 3 heures de temps. 16 heures, c'est bon?
16 heures.
4 heures.
Mais non, il est là, papa.
16 heures.
So we're going to go back to the studio at 4 and they'll have the print ready. Alors, c'est magnifique.
Il y a la photo avec le truc.
Like you did the edges.
Ouais, c'est vieux. Voilà. Il y a le zone blanche et les classiques que j'ai mis. Il y a les 3.
Ah, magnifique.
Alors, Jennifer fera les tons différents.
Jennifer's going to do a little bit more finalized version and then sends to me.
Mais l'ensemble me paraît bien.
C'est magnifique.
Ok.
Merci bien.
Bon.
Merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup.
Vous êtes très gentil. Merci beaucoup.
Salut.
Merci.
Merci.
Merci beaucoup.
Au revoir.
Au revoir. Merci beaucoup.
Bon séjour.
Just picked up the final print this morning with Christian. Was so great. He was so attentive to the light. He just did the lighting like 3 or 4 times. You know, he made sure the crook in my elbow was the same as my great uncle, and it's great. It's just it's so emotional to have this journey completed after 100 years. To imagine my great uncle walking through these very streets. Probably with his regiment and then stopping here at this location right here, Studio Ernest. The studio used to be downstairs, so it was right over there that he had this portrait taken 100 years ago. So we have to print so that these stories stay alive and so that, in 100 years, somebody else can discover a print somewhere, somehow, and recreate a story and figure out what was important about that print and how it connects to their life. got in last night a little bit late, and Ken, my oldest, was at work, so I didn't want to retell the whole story of the trip and the reasons why I took the trip to the kids. I think that by printing the story out and being able to present the story one by one in a print manner will kind of help the kids understand on a deeper level and help them remember this as they get older. So studies show that by viewing things in print while you hear a story, your memory and your retention, your understanding shoot way up. So we flew all the way there and we arrived about 3 p.m. and then we went to bed about 12 midnight. And then the next morning we woke up and we rented a car and we had to drive to the south of France. So Paris is up in the north of France and we had to drive. It took 11 hours to get down here. Yeah, that was not cool.
And so the black and white, but this one is gonna focus, you know, on the building, and this one is gonna be sort of the street. And I like this one too.
So these two prints represent the story of this photo taken 100 years ago, and then this photo taken just recently in the same studio, Studio Ernest. And while this is a photo for my family, it's also a print to represent how important it is that we print our photos so that stories like this one can be relived 100 years from now. This represents a family history. So 100 years ago, we have my great-great-uncle, myself, and then these two slots are left open for Ken and Joe to recreate the same exact photo. Hopefully they can travel back to the south of France themselves and visit the same exact studio and being taken care of by Christiane and all the wonderful people that took care of me. Why would I travel 5,250 miles to where this photo was taken to have this photo taken? It's not because I wanted this photo, it's because I wanted to communicate how important it is for us now to print our photos, because in 100 years there will be people that need these stories of their own families, and to know who their parents and their grandparents and their great-grandparents were, and their stories. Because if we're not printing our family photos, then our grandchildren, great-grandchildren won't be able to do what I just did. They won't be able to discover someone's story and who they were. And here I am holding a print that is 100 years old. It was taken of a young man in 1917 as he marched through the south of France.